Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So this is Flik's Entrepreneurial Council. We're all here to talk to you today about Black History Month, which is an exciting opportunity for us. We were brought together back in the fall to talk about some racial equity issues at Flik. And our mission, which is to assist Flik in investing in the career cycle of Black employees from hire to retirement, really speaks to the entire sort of cultural experience of Black employees at Flik. And one of the things that we were asked to do as part of our work together was take a look at Flik's celebration and observance of Black History Month. And that's what we're here today to talk about, because we're super excited. This is a really fun plan that we've put together that emphasizes the context in which culinary traditions are created and ways of knowing are shared from generation to generation. And we have with us our entire Entrepreneurial Council. So I'm going to introduce each of them so you know who we're talking to today. And then we're also super excited to be joined later by a celebrated Southern chef and another Wave Guide Services employee who has a special talent for growing food in urban environments. So I'm going to introduce you to Wave Guide. We're going to talk about Flik. We're going to talk about the Entrepreneurial Council, and we're going to talk about all of the ways in which food systems and Black chefs should be celebrated among all of us. So without further ado, let me talk to you about who our panelists are today. Our first panelist is Erica Lee, who is a Senior Director of Human Resources at Flik. Hi, Erica. Thanks for joining us today. Erica brings a lot to the council. She has experience in change management, and she also has experience in influencing people toward better behaviors. So we're happy to have her here. She's also very funny. She's a mom, and she makes all of this better. We also have Chef Mike Lemon here today, who is a corporate division chef with Flik. He's extremely accomplished, and he comes to food through his own experience being one of many children and sharing food knowledge with his sisters and brothers growing up in Brooklyn. So thanks for joining us today, Chef. We're super duper excited because Chef's mentor is going to be joining us later, and we'll talk about him in just a few minutes. We're also joined by Rhonda Blake. Hi, Rhonda.
Hello.
Rhonda is the General Manager and Director of Marketing at Gallaudet University's Kellogg Conference Hotel in Washington, D.C. I just want to take a minute to say that we're recording this conversation in the week that a mob overran the Capitol. And so we've been really concerned about Rhonda's safety, and we just want to check in and make sure everybody is doing okay. And so we're really glad you're here, Rhonda. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And Trudy Halliman is an experienced food service director in New York City. She's been with Flik for 10 years. She has a lot of experience in Compass and Flik's other diversity and inclusion efforts that are being done both regionally as well as nationally. And we are super excited to have her voice with us today. And then I'm Julie Naddis. I am on loan from Wave Guide. I work with Flik's Technology Services Division. And the friend that we're going to have joining us later today, LaShawn Miller, she's also from Wave Guide, but she's a really unique character because she has AV services experience as well as food experiences. So she's got a lot to offer. We're really excited to see her later today. Before we get going talking about Black History Month, I just wanted to share with everybody a quote that has really guided our thinking in the ways that we put this plan together. The plan that we're going to talk about really highlights humanity and commonalities, and we look at the ways in which we're more alike than we are different. And because we're in a time where racial equity is a driving force for all of us on this council, but also in the midst of a global pandemic, the plan that we put together this year for Black History Month, we really wanted to focus on those two things. So we wanted to keep sight of how important health is and how Black cultures share health information through food and through storytelling. So our whole goal with this is to talk about the context in which many of our traditions are created. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I just want to share with you a quote that has really guided our thinking. This is from Dr. Marcia Chatelain from Georgetown University. She's a professor of history and African American studies. And she says, "We have to take history seriously. Restaurants are not just feeding people, they're telling a story, and they're trying to elicit emotions about connection, about family, about community, about the past or the present." And that is why we're here today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator of our first panel, Trudy, and she's going to be talking about rice dishes.
Thank you so much, Julie. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. The best part of my week is always meeting with you and sharing knowledge and exchanging ideas. So today we're talking about food in this segment. So one thing that we all know about food is everybody everywhere gathers around food. No matter what culture you're from, no matter what country you're from, food is the great uniter. We all eat, right? So what we talked about while we were getting together over what to do for Black History Month is what are the commonalities that we all share as humans, and what specifically does Black diaspora add to food culture in America specifically. So we went global, and then we came back, we narrowed it down to the American culture. So we talked about rice. And rice is very interesting for American culture, but specifically, all around the world. So just a brief history of how rice came to America, right? So we know that there's two different types of, Siri wanted to talk to me. Sorry, so we know that rice comes from two different types of parts of the world. So we have Asian rice and we have African rice. So we're gonna talk about how African rice arrived in the Americas. It came in a not great way. It came from the enslaved peoples of West Africa. Their knowledge of foodways and how to cultivate rice arrived with them from the continent. And because the Europeans who were enslaving the African peoples didn't know how to engage with that crop, they bought more people from the West Africa, brought them here because they were used to the climate that is in the South Carolinas and Georgia and in the South. So they were able to quickly assimilate into that environment and really explain and show the colonists how to grow and propagate that rice. As a part of that, out of something bad usually comes something good. We have the Gullah Geechee people, who are the main ancestors of the peoples who came from West Africa, so Sierra Leone and other West African nations. They are the most recent or most close ancestors of the enslaved folks that came to us from Africa. They mastered rice growing, and they have kept that tradition to this day. There's so many different rice dishes that are native to America now that we actually got from, African nations. So that's our entry point into talking about rice. Myself, I am from Jamaica, proud Jamaican. I eat, rice and peas. I eat seasoned rice. I eat rice with eggs. I can eat rice every day, all day. So, we decided, rice is kind of the great uniter. If you sit down over rice, if you talk to anyone from any culture, it's such a comforting thing to engage with. It's so adjustable. You can put anything on it. Rice is like the base, but it can be the star of any dish. So it's so useful, right? So this is how we wanted to talk about culture and our pride of being Black people, Black Americans, and not starting from our enslavement, but starting from where we brought our culture here to the Americas, and understand what that means when you bring it into, Black History Month, and how that really changes the culture and shapes the culture of America. So I wanted to ask a couple of us, all of us actually, what does rice mean to you? When you think about rice, what does it mean to you? And I'll start with Rhonda because you're next to me on my screen.
Well, like you, I am from the Caribbean diaspora. What does rice mean to me? Well, in every meal, we have rice. Similar to you in Jamaica, we have rice. And one of our dishes in Trinidad and Tobago, we call it cook up or pilau, which is green peas with rice, or pigeon peas with rice, or dried pigeon peas with rice. My son recently married and I was introduced to black rice, and now it is a staple of our table every time we dine. It is known that we add black rice to the table along with the pilau. It's very carb loaded, but it's really good. So it's part of who we are.
I just want to jump in here and say that Rhonda filmed a really awesome video with her family for us over the holidays where they're all on Zoom and she's sharing how to cook black rice. And so we're going to share that video with you too. It'll be part of all of this.
Great.
So Erica, you're bottom from me, so I'd love to hear your experiences with rice.
It's very similar. So what's funny is I love when you talk about geechee, because I'm a daily rice eater as well. I mean, I'm part of that support group where we eat rice daily, including rice daily. So much so, I didn't know until we started having this conversation about rice within our American cuisine and culture, that I used to say it. You know, I'm a geechee. I can eat rice every day. It was almost a figure of speech that folks would use, and you never would know that it's really, or it originated from just like you said, Trudy, that you know that region and tribe, and so it's very informational. But to me, rice is a staple. That's what it means to me. If I had to put it into one word, it's a staple. It goes with almost everything. It reminds me of my mother's Southern cooking. That is just part of the staple of the menu always. So that's what rice means to me. It's daily, actually.
Thank you. Mike, please talk to us about your geechee roots and how you feel about rice.
Geechee roots, yeah, that's a good one. My family actually is from Charleston, South Carolina, so they're the original Geechees. And but it's funny that you mentioned how rice just there's a connection to all communities, especially from the African and the Black American community and all. But the one thing about rice is that when they brought the Africans over, kidnapped, however you want to look at it, when we arrived here, the goal was rice was about making money for them. So that's the whole goal. It was, what did we add to the American culture? In rice, we added dollars, and we made them wealthy in the Carolinas. So I just wanted to make sure that we hit that point, because it's always painful when you're talking about stuff, but then you turn around and say, okay, they use them for their slave labor, but they also use them for the agriculture and technology knowledge that they gave and they used there. So, when you talk about what did we add to the culture or to the Americas, that's what we added. But in the next sense, we brought them wealth. But anyway, let's get back to the great rice. And it's funny because people of Africa, the one thing they say about all the rice dishes, and especially in West Africa, and I saw this and I was like, I have to add this. They said, having no rice at a party is like having a wedding without a wedding cake. That's how important rice is. That's how much people love rice. And just like everyone else, my family, we ate rice every single day. But the goal— I
had rice yesterday.
I eat it every single day. But you know what? How you can turn rice, and especially when you don't have money, you eat rice, and it could be a one-pot dish. And I have I remember as a little boy, my aunt, who actually is turning 94 on our next birthday, when she came and she lived with us for a while, she made this rice dish. It was just chicken and rice. She just stewed the rice, stewed the chicken and threw the rice in. To this day, I think it's the best meal I've ever had in my life. Wow. One-pot dish, rice and that. And I just recently did a party, maybe about 2 summers ago, in Georgia at my sister-in-law's house, and I did a whole Southern small plate tapas party, kind of small plate party. And one of the dishes that I featured was blue crab rice.
Oh, wow.
And the funny part about rice, and when we talk about rice, why did Southerners and Africans and Caribbeans and Latin Americans and South Americans, people love rice so much? it's not about the starch and the ricey bit, the bits on the bottom of the pan, the brown bits. And when you scrape that up, that was your flavor. Yes, and that was your flavor. And to me, when you look at rice and when I did that blue crab rice dish at that party, my sister-in-law had like 40 people over. And everyone stood around because they heard the crackling at the bottom of the pan. They said, Chef Mike, if you don't mind, that's what I want. I want that.
My plate.
The brown bits of crispiness from the rice. And that to me is when I think about rice, that's what I'm thinking about. I was like, okay, what other attributes does rice give me? And that's the brown bits and the flavor. Really, I love rice.
We're all kind of familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm not Dominican, but I know in Dominican culture, they actually use, and I think in Iranian culture as well, they use the brown bits as a whole dish. It's not incredible. The main feature of some of their dishes.
That's flavor. To me, that's true cooking and what food should be about. Finding the other little pieces of what you can get out of a dish and how you can, we're survivors, right? So that's how we survive. And that's how we enjoyed food.
Chef, can you talk a little bit about the rice dishes that we wanted to feature this week?
Absolutely. Would love to. So as we know that rice bowls are what's happening now. Everyone's doing everything in a bowl. And I actually do love it that you can just do a rice dish. Once again, rice is a filler, but it's also flavoring and different things you can do with it. So I think we're going to do it like the first week, we're going to do a rice bowl dish. And we're going to offer 3 different types of rice from the African diaspora. We're going to do Haitian black rice, Low Country Charleston red rice, and what was the other one? Help me out, Rhonda.
Go ahead, Trudy.
Brazil? Was it Brazilian?
No,
it's the Ghanaian.
It's the African rice.
The African jollof rice.
Jollof,
jollof rice, correct.
And we're gonna offer that as a station, and you can have one of them in your bowl, and then we're gonna top it with some African diaspora flavors such as escovitch fish.
Yes.
I believe it's jerk chicken breast. And then we're doing a Brazilian, so that's the good part. We're doing a Brazilian vegetarian stew. And you can top it with one of those side toppings, proteins or vegetarian offerings. So I think that's another spin on what we've done in the past, but how we're bringing rice into the community and showing the connection of how rice brings us all together, but it also shows us how there's no difference. You have rice.
Chef,
everyone loves
I'm so
rice.
happy to hear you talk about that, because when you think about the ways that we're presenting rice dishes now in rice bowls, it's more of an elevated concept, right? Because we're now acknowledging that other cultures have elevated cuisines to add to, food culture, and where
Absolutely.
we had separate, we had street food and then we had cuisine. Now we are all entering the conversation, at the same point now, where if you're from whichever country you're from, that food to you is your cuisine. So we have leveled everything now where all foods are cuisine, because it's what is important to us and what's important to me. So I love the rice bowl concept.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that.
That's awesome.